Hey, what's up you guys? Today I wanted to discuss some disappointing adaptations. So I watched the Ready Player One movie last month and I was very disappointed with it, as you all know, because I mentioned that in my wrap up last month. So today I just wanted to talk about some more disappointing adaptations, my thoughts on them, and you can share your thoughts as well in the comment section down below as to what you thought were some disappointing adaptations and if you agree or disagree with any of my choices. As always, this is my opinion, yours can be different and that is fine. We are all people and we all have different opinions, and that is what makes us unique. Let's just start off by talking about the one that I thought was the least disappointing, but it was still pretty disappointing, which was the Vampire Academy movie. I don't know why they decided to make it more comedic than it needed to be, and they took away some of the heart of the movie. I feel like they took away Rose and some of her serious side. They just made her more comedic, and so it made the movie feel very disjointed, and I did not like that at all. And she is so serious about protecting Lissa. She is so hardcore. She is really funny, but she isn't just comedic relief. She is the main character. And for some reason, they decided to just change up that character dynamic in the movie and make it almost like a joke movie. It felt like it was parodying itself, which is just weird if they were wanting to start off something that could actually be a franchise like Harry Potter or something like that, where it's several movies of a franchise, or Hunger Games or something, because they just did not keep the heart of that book in the movie. They made it almost like Mean Girls or something, where it's just so ridiculous that it doesn't feel real. Like, those books, they have some realistic moments in them. Like, don't get me wrong, it is a fantasy series, so you know this is never gonna happen, but it does have some real characters that aren't just one thing. You know, they are dynamic characters, but in the movie they just made them all really static. The next one I wanted to talk about was so disappointing. I really cannot get over how disappointing it was, because I absolutely love this series, which is the Mortal Instruments movie, also the TV show. Let's just talk about them both. Let's put them both in here because wow, just wow. I wish this show would be picked up by something like HBO or CW or something that would give it some actual love and attention that it deserves, and not ABC Family or Freeform, whatever that is called nowadays, because these books are so amazing. Like, they could have done so great with them, and there are so many books and they could have gone so many places, and they're so popular. They knew that they were gonna get a lot of money. This movie, it just came across as a cash grab, and it was so frustrating and disappointing because the character interactions was so terrible. The chemistry between our leads was so bad and awkward and weird. It just made everything uncomfortable, and how they changed the whole ending of the story, I just don't get it. I mean, I understand one thing that they did, which was kind of breaking the suspense of the plot twist that happens at the end, but man, that movie was terrible. I was so excited for it. I remember dressing up with one of my friends to like go to the frickin' movie premiere, and we were just so heartbroken by that movie. I remember everything about anticipating that movie and looking up the cast as it was being released, watching videos of Christine from Paul and Banana's books posting about the movie, and the level of disappointment was just so high because I really expected something to come out of that and be good, and had they done good with it, they could have really gone a lot of places with the rest of those books, because they are really loved books by a lot of people. But they decided to just half-ass it, give a terrible script, terrible lines. They messed up so many things. They messed up the whole Hotel Dumore scene, which was also very disappointing because that was a fantastic scene to read in the books. Like, that is where the books really pick up and get exciting in that first book. So much of the beginning of it is some info dumps, but whatever, it's fine. And then the TV show came out, and I did not expect it to be good at all, especially because it was coming out on Freeform, and it wasn't great either. It went on a little bit longer than I anticipated it to. I don't know how long it's been going on. I watched the first few episodes, but they were nothing like the book at all. They made the Institute very high-tech, which is not what it is at all. They made the characters all very different. In the show, I feel like Jace is more like Alec in the book, and Alec is more like Jace. I feel like they switched up up their personalities in the show, and I did not like that at all because I want to be frustrated with Alec. I was frustrated with him in the book, but you know what? It's fine because I'm not gonna watch the show. So next I wanted to talk about one that wasn't disappointing. Well, it was disappointing in a sense, but this is one where I watched the adaptation first and then jumped to the book. So I was curious what the book was with this one, which is The Vampire Diaries. So I read the first book in that series after watching the show, and they are absolutely nothing alike. The only thing that the two things share is the character names and vampires. The rules behind the vampires don't even stay the same. So many things are completely different. Who Catherine is different. Klaus introduced way sooner in the book than in the show. So it's just very different, and it was very jarring for me to read, and so I wound up not liking the book at all. And I don't know if I would have liked it had I read it before watching the show, but I would not really recommend that book if you like the show because they are so different. Really, the only thing that stays the same is the character names. Bonnie, not even a witch in the book. There's another girl who's a witch. She's not even in the show. It's just weird. So check it out at your own risk, but it was not a book that I really enjoyed in my opinion. I don't remember that much about it other than it was nothing like the show. So next let's talk about one that was very disappointing to me, but kind of expected and anticipated, which was one that really felt like a cash grab to begin with, which was Insurgent and Allegiant. So we all know The Hunger Games was amazing, and then the movies for The Hunger Games were also amazing, and then the Divergent movie came out and it was kind of riding the coattails of The Hunger Games and its popularity, and Divergent was good, and then Insurgent came out, and what happened with Insurgent? I don't understand. I know that book wasn't as interesting as Divergent, and I feel like that might be what led to the problems with Insurgent and Allegiant, is that not as many people liked Insurgent, and not even nearly as many of those people liked Allegiant. I am one of the people who kind of found Insurgent okay, and then I absolutely hate Allegiant. I don't hate it, I just really don't like it. But I never even watched the Allegiant movie. I just have seen enough scenes in it to know that it is nothing like the book at all. They lost so much of what those books are. They took everything that those books were and were like, we don't like it, let's change it. Let's put in these weird ass scenes where Triss is like fighting herself, and let's make this internal struggle. Let's make it a physical one, and it doesn't need to be. There's a reason why Triss was struggling with all of these things in her head. It's because that's what real people struggle with. Like if you're having an internal struggle in real life, you're not gonna physically fight yourself. You're still just gonna struggle in your head. Like if you're struggling with like PTSD like Triss was struggling with, that's not gonna manifest itself into you physically like fighting yourself or punching yourself in the mirror. Like it might have physical manifestations, but it's not gonna manifest itself in that type of a way, and so it's just really weird, and I don't really recommend those movies. Next I wanted to talk a little bit about The Host, but I don't feel like this was necessarily a bad adaptation. I just feel like this was not a book that should have been adapted into a film. So I really love The Host, but one of the things about The Host is that it is very much an internal conversation between Melanie and Wanda. Took me a second to remember her name. So an internal conversation between Melanie and Wanda that's going on just in their head, their shared head. I don't know whose, I mean it's Melanie's head, but it's kind of Wanda's too. So anyways, happening in their shared head. It's really hard to represent that in a film, and I feel like the way that they did that in the film was very weird, and it just made it gave me like a disconnect between the characters, because I didn't feel like Wanda was ever really her own person. She was always very dependent upon Melanie, which is true to some extent. A lot of her does come from Melanie as far as her thoughts and feelings towards humans, but she does still have her own personality. She does still have her own thoughts and feelings, and it's hard to see that in the film because she's really just writing on Melanie's personality the entire time. So I feel like it just shouldn't have been adapted into a film because that's really hard to do, and I just feel like the way in which they did that was not well done at all. And I also felt like the acting was just really off overall for the whole movie, but it is still, relatively speaking, compared to the rest of these, it actually follows some of the plot points of The Host for the most part. So it is good in that sense, but it's still not my favorite adaptation just because of those disconnects, because they couldn't represent what was happening in the book as well as the book could. So lastly, I wanted to talk talk about the most disappointing adaptation that I've ever watched, which I'm sure you all probably can agree with, which is Percy Jackson. So we all love Percy Jackson. We all love those books, or at least I am assuming most people love those books because they are so good. They're so fun. They're so fast paced. They are really just some fun ass books to read. I highly recommend them if you haven't read them yet. But the movie was a fucking shit show. Like, those were our characters and they did them dirty. They did them so dirty in that film because the plot was not even similar at all. Annabeth, completely different character. In the first movie, where was Claire? Was she even there? Did I miss something? Was she there? Like, we were missing so many things in that film. Annabeth didn't even have blonde hair. Like, it's not that hard to give someone a wig. They did it in Twilight and it looked terrible and we were all okay with it. And they just, oh my god, it was so frustrating and it really, really irritated the hell out of me. And in the second movie, it was even worse. The plot was just so different. At least in the second movie, they kind of kept the overall structure the same, wherein they had to get the Fleece and Grover, but then they had that weird plot twist at the end with throwing in Thanos and the coffin and making Thanos come back early and defeating Thanos early. And my issue with that is if they were to continue on, where would they even go? Because they've already done the thing that they do in the last book, so they don't have anywhere to go. So it was just so disappointing, and I can't believe they were given a second chance with Sea of Monsters and they just threw it in the toilet, because this could have been like Harry Potter. These books were like Harry Potter for a lot of people. Like, these were more like Harry Potter for my sister than Harry Potter was, because she enjoyed these books more. She read them more at a time where she really grew up with them, and it was just so heartbreaking to see them so done wrong, because everything was just wrong. The characters were wrong. They threw the plot out the window. They made the characters a lot older than they were in the books for lazy reasons, in my opinion. You can find good child actors. But anyways, now that I'm done talking about that and my passion for the terribleness of those movies, thank you for watching. I post videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. If you agree with any of my choices, comment down below. If you have any other adaptations that you found extremely disappointing, comment those down below as well. Please like and subscribe if you liked this video. So yeah, I will see you in my next video, which will be on Tuesday. So bye!